What's up, dude?
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Got a good show today. We have Dale Moss on the show. Excited to have him. So much to talk to this guy. I'm very interested. I'm very curious what he's got to say. You
We've
know?
been trying to get Dale for a while, so I think this is
Yeah.
a big get for us. I mean, Bachelor Nation, I think, is so fascinated with him and Claire and just their relationship. How they went from getting on the Bachelorette to like just falling in love with each other. And so, I don't know.
To
I'm curious.
falling in love, to falling out of love, to
Yeah, I guess
possibly
yeah.
falling in
Breaking,
love.
they broke up for like a half a second, right? And then they were like back together. Whatever. I'm curious to hear about it all, honestly.
Yeah, I wanted to hear him kind of set the record straight.
I
And
mean,
then also,
we gotta ask about Colton, right? I mean, that's kind of like the biggest story in entertainment news right now. Does he know
Dax,
Colton? Do you know?
I don't think so. But Dax, were you shocked?
Totally shocked. And
Why?
I
No
had no
clue?
idea. I honestly, and I feel like I'm pretty tied in with entertainment news, and I've always heard all the rumors throughout the years with other people. And I woke up, saw the news from GMA, and I was like, whoa, that came out of left field. I mean, you know, did you have any inclination?
Oh yeah, I
That was
think
like a normal thing? I had no
I
idea.
I think I knew he was gay when his penis was in my mouth.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just kidding. That's so weird. No. I that's so stupid. I
You're such an idiot.
I but here's the funny part. It's like it seems almost a little too calculated in my opinion. It's just weird how he's kind of it's weird how he was in a relationship with this girl. They break
Mhm.
up. It's a bad breakup. And then there's also the restraining order pretty much against him because was it a restraining order?
Yeah, I think it was a restraining order.
It was just like he was stalking this girl. So it's some pretty bad press on Colton. Then all of a
I
sudden he
mean,
comes out of
can
nowhere.
you kind of think that kid clearly was struggling big time inside of his own head? I mean, that's
Well,
when I listened to him talking to Robin, it sounds like he struggled a lot. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know where to go. He didn't know how to like just live life. And so I'm not saying that that excuses his behavior by any means, but I think there is a level of just your own mental mind fuck every day of your
yes.
life. And not only that, so he's gay and then goes on the number one dating heterosexual dating reality show on the planet. You know what I'm saying? So it's not only are you messed up in your head, but now you're like, I'm trying to prove to the entire world that I'm straight. I don't know. It's crazy.
Here's what we do know right now. We know that he is working on a documentary series on Netflix. They've been recording that. So we know that he is working on, and I'm sure he got paid or is getting paid very well for
Oh, I'm
that.
sure.
One thing people do not know, and I know, is that his team has been working very hard on the PR end, and they've been trying to call the paparazzi and do these setup shots with the paparazzi. And I know that the photographers were getting a call the last few days saying, "Hey, listen, Colton is staying at this hotel. Get him around West Village. Get him at this hotel. Leaving. He's got a big announcement coming the next few days." So it's kind of funny how they were trying to really make this a big deal and get do the setup shots.
But I don't fault them for that. I mean, that's their job to get press. And any publicist or agent or celebrity that call the paps, you know me. I do not balk at that at all. That is
Yeah.
a way to get press.
Listen,
I think you can get more press through a paparazzi than you can sometimes get sitting down with, a huge television show.
I agree. And listen, I will out you if you call the paparazzi. I will not out you if you call me. If you
Well,
call
not
me and want to do
okay.
setup
Let's
shots,
in this
I won't call
situation,
you
not
out.
outing if they're gay or not, outing the
Yeah,
fact that they call the paps.
yeah. Let's make that. Yeah, I should set that straight. I will out you that you call the paparazzi if you don't call me. If you call me, dude. We're best friends, man. Help me out.
He'll
Help me
never
out.
mention that you called him.
But if you don't call me, I will find out that you called other paparazzi and you were trying to, So there's a little smoke and mirrors there. But I'm excited. I'm excited for today's guest. We got Dale Moss on the show. Before we get to Dale, Dax, do we have any reviews?
So let me pull one up because I'm supposed to be prepared and I'm supposed to like have these ready. but I totally didn't, and I'm a slack ass, so I'm gonna do it right now. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull
So
up the
that's
first one I see.
the best thing you do to support this podcast. Leave a review, 5-star only, and if you do that, we'll read it live on air. Because we need that. It helps out with the algorithm. That's just how iTunes works, and that's the best thing to do to support this podcast. Dax has that review ready, and he's reading it now.
Okay,
Ready.
so this one came from every nickname was taken. ADAMG. My new obsession. Love this podcast as Dax and Adam totally deliver every week. The questions I ask are the ones I am most interested. Adam always brings the heat while Dax just brings the ketchup. Bravo. And that is a great review.
Yeah, Dax, thanks for bringing the ketchup. Dax.
Listen, I'm bringing the ketchup, whatever that means. I am bringing it.
I love it, man. Thank you for that review. And again, that's the best thing to do to support this podcast. Leave a review. And again, it helps out the algorithm. Dax, tell us about our guest today.
All right. So our guest today is a former NFL player, philanthropist, and is now one of the most popular fiancés in the world as he got engaged on a little television show that we all know, The Bachelorette. Mr. Dale Moss. Welcome, buddy.
Dale, thanks for coming on the podcast. Obviously, we know you have a huge, important announcement about you that you wanted to come forward. You know, I know Robin Roberts and Colton just had a big announcement. And now you came on this podcast. You have a very big announcement. Do you want to talk about it now?
The big announcement is that I'm here. That's actually it. But this is my first interview I think I've done, almost since November. But no, I was happy to connect with y'all boys, and the fact that Colton had his news the other day, I mean that's major. Everything that he's been through within the franchise, and just the fact that was willing to speak his truth is something that's admirable. And I know that that's something that's not easy, but it was great to see how many people rallied behind him. The Bachelor franchise really embraced that, and you know, whatever happens moving forward, as long as he's happy and that's where he's at in his life and he can, you know, go through each and every day and feel good about himself, like that's nothing but love and respect.
Did you know the Bachelor franchise, like all the people, I feel like it's a really tight-knit group of people.
Yep.
Everyone's doing each other's podcasts and everyone's running into each other in the outside world. Was there any rumblings of this? Because for me personally, I did not see this coming. But then I've talked to other people that are like, oh yeah, like there's been talk, blah, blah, blah. Did you have any inclination?
I mean, I had no idea. And I'm obviously new to the franchise. And especially with the way that this year went and last year with filming and, you know, coming off the show, I personally kind of tried not to focus as much on the franchise, just to really focus on personal, obviously things with like Clare and I. But there's talks about it, but it's hard with media and social media to really understand where all the rumblings are coming from, because the internet is brutal, right? Twitter and all those things will say a little bit of everything. And I know that people were talking about his sexuality before in maybe a joking manner, or people who had no idea or understanding, but I think he kept it really, really close to himself. And you got to understand that Colton, growing up as an athlete, going through the NFL and all these other things, especially being in the spotlight in the media, I'm sure he held on to that even tighter than ever because of the pressures that he already had being through the franchise on The Bachelorette and then The Bachelor, and obviously his relationship with, which was public. But it caught me, it definitely caught me by surprise for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think it's now time? You got to ask yourself, and I guess, do you think there could be a gay Bachelor series?
I mean, I think that anything is possible, right? The number one thing that we're seeing in general is about inclusivity and also just embracing other people's differences. And, you know, while I don't see that happening maybe like in the near future on one of the major networks, I definitely think that there's a place for it. And whatever it is, like it's something that people will support and embrace. But it's not a reach, you know, to think that that's coming very soon.
I gotta think it's a layup with him, right? I mean, it literally is the perfect situation. He's already done The Bachelor. Now it's a different situation, but I mean, I don't see it, like you said, happening on network TV, but I think that there is a spot that they could really capitalize on this situation.
Yeah, well, I think if anything in this instance is a great chance for him to tell his story, however that may be. Documentaries are so powerful. And also this all comes back to what he's comfortable with. Obviously, this is something that's fresh, right? But it's a pretty powerful story, based on what I know from outside looking in, with him coming up through sports and being in the public spotlight, and then having to kind of pivot and speak and go in the direction of his truth. So whatever he's comfortable with in due time, I'm sure that there will be a lot more things and a lot of requests with it. But I think just telling his story and doing it in depth and making sure that it's told in the way that he wants it told, without different editing and everything to take away from the actual magnitude of that decision and obviously his life.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning, because I feel like you're the kind of guy, we haven't heard much from you. You haven't done a lot of interviews, so I thank you for coming on. We saw you as the good-looking former NFL player on The Bachelorette, but you grew up where?
I grew up in South Dakota, man. I've small town, Brandon, South Dakota, about 5,000 people. And I was in South Dakota throughout pretty much all the way through college. So I played basketball and football at South Dakota State University. But I love where I grew up. It's a great area. A lot of my family is still there, and I don't shy away from it in any way, shape, or form.
And you made it to the NFL yourself, right? Like
after 1 year playing football.
Yeah, 1 year.
How is that impossible?
So I was a basketball player in college. I played 4 years, and that was my first love. My mom played on a U.S. national team that traveled the globe while she was in college. I always wanted to play in the NBA. When I was finished with college basketball, I had an opportunity to play professionally overseas. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I have no interest in going over to Europe. Like, my family's here, everything's here. I was recruited for football as well, and I went out for 1 year. And it gave me a shot. I ended up signing with the Packers as a free agent, and then spent 3 seasons with the Chicago Bears.
That's great. So
what position were you? Sorry, I
was a wide receiver. So it's funny because now I got a baby face. I can barely grow facial hair, but I graduated college in 2011. So that was like 10 years ago when I started that journey. I've been in New York for the last 5 years, which everyone is always like, oh, you're in New York. Like, where do you live? Do you live there? I've been here for 5 years, but that's a chapter that I think definitely really helped and prepared me for a lot of things after the fact. And I love competing. I still stay very close with a lot of guys. I've done things with the NFLPA around Super Bowl. And that's something that I always want to keep a close tie to.
No. So when you played for a few years. So do you receive an NFL pension for that? How does that work?
Yeah. So after you have 4 accredited seasons, there's a pension. And they're actually coming out with a lot more things because they're understanding, even, guys that played for a short term, the effects, the injuries. But there's so many benefits if these athletes and these players really look into it, whether that's continued education, getting assistance on if you want to go back for a degree. And the NFLPA and the Players Trust really does a great job of trying to make sure that every player, whether it was only 1 or 2 years, or if it was 10, 15 years, is included and taken care of after the fact. And there's also just a ton of research that's going on, just overall health. I think that's a focus more than ever, because I've seen it first and foremost. Guys that I played with are having, issues and injuries. And we talk about like the dementia that develops and things because of concussions. Like, it's a real thing. So I personally, even though I had a short term in the league, have tried to take advantage of a lot of those benefits, but also the education and the resources. And I can't tell you how much it's helped me overall in areas well beyond football.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so then you leave the NFL, you move to New York. What do you do for money? Like, what was your job when you moved to New York?
All I do is I just hang out at Party City and So I was actually at the time when I signed with Wilhelmina, I was the first pro athlete to sign with them on their roster for their fitness division. This was when they first started. And so modeling was something that I did right away. And it's one of those New York stories, right? I came out here to work on a project with Nike at the time, booked it, and then I booked like 4 more things within like a week and a half, and I just never left. I love the city. I always knew I wanted to be here. And before I flew out for that, I had never been to New York. I was in LA training in the off seasons. I signed with Wilhelmina out there, but I ended up getting pulled out here to New York. And then from that point, I went to school for video production and digital production. And I always wanted to either produce events or film. And I've always wanted to host. And, I've gotten a lot of people say, oh, he's just using this for the fame and, Ryan Seacrest and that. I think that some of the most impactful people in our society right now are storytellers or people who enhance other people's stories. Just like with the podcast, just like with a lot of these people in, whether it's CNN or like a Trevor Noah, Michael Strahan's done a great job. Nate Burleson, I think he's been so versatile. And I think there's something really special about that. And that's what I started doing early. Outside of modeling, I was hosting a lot of live events and experiences, and I was helping produce a lot of them just through relationships with different brands, clients, and also talent in the industry.
Cool. So, obviously you went on The Bachelorette, but before you go on The Bachelorette, you're a good looking guy, you're a former NFL player, you got shit going on. How was dating for you in New York City? Were you cleaning up? Were you on the apps?
Hey, I guess I think everyone builds out an app profile. I never used the apps. I wasn't even a dater in New York City. Everyone's like, oh, what's the New York dating scene like? Like, it must be so lovely. I was in a relationship before I went on the show for over 4 years. And then after that, I really took a lot of time for myself to build career. I was dealing with a lot of stuff with family. My mom passed away at the time. And honestly, for about 3 years, I dated maybe two, 3 people. And nobody believes me when I say that. But I really took the time to focus on myself because I knew that if I didn't handle business at that stage in my life, I was never going to be able to make and build a foundation for a long career. But I think with everything too, it's so easy to get in that mode, in that rut of isolating yourself from everyone. And then I ended up, at a certain point, just realizing I was doing all this cool shit. I was around so many amazing people. I was more successful than when I was playing football, making more money, at different stages than that. But I also realized I wasn't enjoying things as much as I would have liked to, because at the end of the day, these experiences are meant to be enjoyed with somebody else and other people. And I ended up going on the show, after a lot of back and forth, A, to just really give up control, and B, put myself out there, and show, myself, but also how I was raised, what I stand for. And I don't know, it was the best decision of my life. One of the best decisions of my life, without a doubt.
Going on the show was one of the best decisions of your life.
Yeah, I think
really?
Without a doubt. And I haven't talked a lot about the relationship, and neither has Claire. And and with us, we're really, really focused on one another and just building things properly. And it's been great during this time, but even reflecting back, I've gotten the question so many times, do you regret it? Would you change anything? I wouldn't change anything for the world. I've grown so much throughout this, have challenged myself. I met one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And whether there's challenges or not, it's one of those situations. While obviously, we're not talking publicly about, our situation, and we'll do that in due time, but we love and care about one another. And, I've just grown a lot from the entire experience. I've learned a lot about how to handle myself in stressful situations. You learn a lot about media. I mean, everyone talks about like preparing for, going on the show and what happens after. Obviously, we're doing it in a pandemic as well. And you just got to live and you got to learn a little bit, Well,
can you confirm that you guys are in fact back together? Because I guess that's the big rumor. We've seen photos of you guys out in New York and kind of kissy and all of that. And everyone's been speculating, are they together? Are you guys?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've never hid throughout this entire time that we've been around each other, or, like, we're not going and like trying to hide out from people and wear a mask and a hoodie and sunglasses. So we've definitely taken time and we're spending time together. Claire and I are like, we're in a good place. And when the time's right, we'll definitely talk about all those things. But again, for right now, we're just focused on one another. And we're keeping things private, and that's working for us. And in due time, we'll speak about that together.
Does she still wear the engagement ring?
Claire still has the ring and all the things. So no, but I, with anything, and this is what I've always said, as we work through things, like if we're together, we're together. If we're not, we're not. And again, we haven't talked about anything publicly, and I'm not going to go into details on everything, just because again, we'll do that when we're together. And but again, we're just in a good place, and just like with every relationship, we're just working through things and supporting one another, and just taking it as it comes.
Well, we're rooting for you guys.
We're rooting for you guys.
A lot of Bachelor Nation is. We want to see you guys succeed. At the end of the day, that's what it really comes down to.
Everyone wants to see a good ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, everyone's like, oh, like there's this top secret mission. Like, what's going on? You guys are hiding out. You're trying to keep this from us. No, we're just living life, and we're doing it and being present with one another. And it's been great to be able to go about it that way. And again, the question's going to come up all the time, and everyone will know in due time. So
the one last thing I was going to ask about it was that, there's been a lot of stories, and listen, I don't know if they're true or not. There's been a lot of stories about the distance being difficult for you guys, her in LA, you in New York. I did see her post a video. It looked like it was inside of an empty apartment in New York. Is there any chance of her moving to New York?
I mean, I can't speak for Claire on any of those things, but so again, like, we're just taking things as they come, and who knows that, like, right now, again, we're just taking time and focusing on one another, and everything else will work itself out.
Awesome.
You guys had the little bit of a, obviously you guys had the little bit of a breakup. There was a little bit of he say, she say. It was a whole like kind of weird thing. How did you guys kind of kindle? How did that kind of come back to, the core and say, hey, there's something there?
Yeah, I mean, with everything that occurred, and again, like, I'm not going to go into too many details on all those things. Like, at the base foundation, no matter what anyone says, no matter what social media and stuff tries to portray, or media, how certain things went out, like, Claire and I love each other. We love each other tremendously. That was never a question. That's always been the clearest and most understood thing with us from the beginning. And I think just with any situation in any relationship, if you love and care for someone, regardless of what happens, if it's meant to be, you'll find yourselves back together at some point. And I truly believe that. So I think that's like the answer for a lot of things. And I don't know, I'll just leave it at that.
Last question. The last time we saw you on TV together, you two were engaged. Do you still consider yourself an engaged guy?
I mean, I'll just say again, like, Claire and I are in a good place. We're just focused on one another, and when we're together, we'll talk about those things collectively, and just leave it at that.
All right, cool. So wait, I want to also go into how you ended up on The Bachelorette.
Well, hold on. I got a question that we need to get to, because we were talking about modeling, and then we got into Claire, because there was a very famous modeling shoot that you did that made a lot of rounds, and it wasn't the Nike brands. It wasn't the,
Oh,
Hilfiger, the other stuff. Tell me more about the photo shoot you did for the Halloween costumes, because I saw it on like TMZ and everyone.
Dude, that's the bane of my existence. And a lot of people actually have those, and I never thought it would see the light of day. It was something that was internal. And I remember when I went for it, it was like, I thought it was like a Broadway costume type situation. And and then I showed up.
Well, there was Spartacus there.
Yeah, well, I showed up and it was something completely different. I was 3 hours outside of the city, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do right now? But I remember taking the job, like at that stage, you know, my family was even going through some stuff, and I was like, whatever, I'll take this. It's paying really well for, you know, only a few hours. But I took that gig, and I literally cringe every time I see it, and I have for years. That was like 4+ years ago. And after I did it the one time when we ran through some things, I was like, I'm not doing this again. But I will say, like, at that stage in the game, like, whatever, like, Party City helped pay my parents' rent for about 5 months. And
if the money was good, then it was worth it. You're the best looking taco man we've ever seen.
Hey, one thing, and this is what you learn about social media and everything, like, if you can't lean into something and make fun of yourself, then, you know, you're going to have some difficulty with those things. But it's whatever the case, it's a part of life. I've done a lot of other ones that I'm way more proud of. But at the end of the day, it's funny. If you can poke fun at yourself, it's all good things.
You're not the only one who's done that, by the way. A lot of, like, I know a lot of people personally who've done the same Party City stuff, and they have the same exact story as you.
They say we'll never see the light of day and everything, but they also don't expect for you to be on a show, the most popular reality show in the history of television, and have it get drug around. But whatever the case, I do love tacos. Taco Tuesday is one of my favorite days. And like, it is what it is. Who cares?
So what was the audition like to get on The Bachelorette? Like, did you have to make a video? Did you make a home video? What did you do?
I was nominated. So I was nominated by like a close friend. So Tai, she's like a little sister to me here in New York. And I remember she's like, I'm going to nominate you because you never date anybody. I never see you with anybody. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Do what you do. And I got a call in San Diego. I was with my family down there, and you know, it was the casting agents for the show, and they're like, hey, you know, we're with The Bachelorette. Would you be interested in this? And I was like, I took the call. I was like, I mean, yeah, you know, send me more details. But at that time, I didn't think much of it, and I really had no intention of fully doing the show. It was just kind of odd to me. And keep in mind, at that time, like, I hadn't been dating. I had been just really focused on myself. Career and everything was honestly some of the best like it had been. Went through the interview processes a little more. And I think the biggest thing for me was, once it got down to the final process, obviously I made an audition tape so people could learn a little bit more about me. I didn't know who was going to be the lead. And that is something that really made me uncomfortable. I'm 32, you know, well on into like my career. And then, so I kind of held out till like the last minute. I remember it was like 8 days before we were supposed to leave. And I still hadn't finalized sending all my stuff in, and I was having a really tough time committing to it. And then Claire was announced as the Bachelorette. And that's truly the thing that made me a lot more comfortable. And like right after that, I remember talking to a producer, and I was like, hey, you know, I'm in. I feel like, and for me, how she carried herself on GMA, and also just the fact that I felt that she could really handle like real life shit, and that she was going to be really invested, was a major thing for me. Because you go into these shows not really knowing what to expect, but I had prepared myself. If I do this, I'm going to like leave it all on the table, like any limiting beliefs, anything with family, all these things. Like, I'm not going to shy away from the story and my life and what's made me the man I am today. So I was prepared to share any and everything as I went on the show. So it's
interesting you say that, because I feel that there's a lot of contestants that are on the show that say like, oh, I'm on here because I found out so-and-so was going to be the Bachelorette. And I'm thinking the timeline between audition process and being on the show is so tight that I'm like, how can half these people know who the hell is going to be the Bachelorette or the Bachelor? So I think like for you holding out to the last second, that is a true statement, because I've always questioned if it's true what people are saying on the show.
Yeah, well, I don't know. And, obviously like with the process, it's a drawn out process, and some people commit a little bit earlier. And like, I could have done that. I just personally, I remember holding off for a long time, and it wasn't because I really had to feel comfortable stepping into that position. And for me, it wasn't so much about the production. It wasn't so much about the fact that I'd be on TV or that people would get a peek inside my life. It's like, who is going to be on the other side of this? Because again, I always, thought going through that process, like you can use this, not even talking about publicity, but like, or anything like that, but to let go of a lot of the limiting beliefs you have, to really tell your story, to tell your family story. But if you're going to do that properly and allow people to see your true self, you got to put it all on the line. And I wasn't willing to do that and really open up, especially with my family, because my family, I don't shy away from anything that's happened in our lives. But if I'm going to put that out there and give someone a peek inside that world, I have to really trust and believe that they'll be able to handle it.
So you are the first people to really, you had an interesting season. You're not in the Bachelor Mansion. You guys had to stay at La Quinta. How was it, you had to isolate for a while. How was it staying at that place?
Honestly, it was, I loved it. I loved it.
I could see being great.
The bubble I know for production was probably a nightmare. I think for the contestants, we lucked out with that situation, aside from the fact that it was 120 degrees every day in Palm Springs. And we were just nonstop. And I was there for a short span, right? But it was pretty amazing to see a production and what really goes on. And I mean, they've got it tuned in, you know what I'm saying? But it was awesome, because like they really want you to focus solely on finding love, the relationship, also like building a bond with the guys. That's something that's not always shown, but you spend a lot of time together, and I loved every bit of it.
And you have no TV, can you read? Do you have books? Can you read a book?
I mean, I brought one book, but it was my uncle's book, and just to kind of keep me grounded and stuff. But most people didn't have books. You have no electronics. You have no contact with the outside world. So you are really, it's all in. And when you're sitting in your thoughts, you're sitting in this, but it really forces you to communicate and talk about things. And it challenges you a lot, because in most settings, especially now when you see people just like glued to their phones all the time, you got to put your head up. You got to really talk through things. And there's a lot of unknown situations and variables, and you have to be extremely vulnerable, because nobody's been in that situation before. And you don't have anyone to like give you advice, because no one's been there before. So you're all thrown in here, 32 plus men, and going for what you believe is going to be, the woman of your dreams. And at the same time, you have to still build this respect and this bond within the people that you're per se competing with. And it's a challenging thing. Some people excel at it, and some people really, really struggle.
So you're stuck in quarantine. You've got all these days to think about, meeting with Claire and how the dates are going to go. How was the food, though? Most importantly, how was the food?
It's all about
the food. ABC's delivering you guys food, or the resort's delivering you food. How was that?
Everything was good. I grub. I love to eat. I love we had obviously everything that we needed. And it was pretty much, I'll say, like almost like on demand. The early stages, We had to go through a really intense quarantine phase, which, is obviously publicly known. So that was a little bit where you get a little bit stir crazy because you couldn't leave your room. It was like 8 days. And how I got by, I ordered so much room service. It was ridiculous, to the point, like, I put my own card down because I felt guilty for what I was doing. But that's all. I just slept, grubbed, ate.
Did you have to buy booze? So if you got like a glass of wine, did you have to buy that, or was that all on ABC's tab?
No, I mean, they have everything there that we would need. I'm just someone who, like, I feel bad asking for things. So I was like, at a certain point, I was like, damn, I can't be having drink after drink after drink after drink. Let me just order a bottle of wine. And then I'm going to sit here in my thoughts and visualize what I'm going to say on night one.
That's so great.
Well, actually, so when it goes to night one, you're in the limo, you're pulling up. We've seen people show up on horses. We've seen these grand entrances. How much did you have that scripted in your head, what you're going to do, what you're going to say to Claire? Like, because other people have these grand entrances. You just came out of the limo. She fell for you right away. We know the story. But did you know what you were going to do going in?
So the first time, all I wanted to do is go out and be myself. And when you look at it, like, anyone that knows me sees it and they're like, oh my God, I've never seen you more nervous. And I can hear it in my voice. For a short stint, I was thinking maybe I could do this and something funny, but that's just not my style. Like, what you see is what you get. I'm usually, like, really just calm. I always say that I want people to feel my presence and feel my energy, my heart. And I didn't feel comfortable doing anything but being myself. And everyone is nervous. Some people hide it better than others. And I was good. When I stepped out the limo, I was, like, feeling good. I tucked my shirt in and everything like that. And as soon as I started walking up, I like almost blacked out. It was the weirdest thing. I forgot different things I was going to say, but I think that just shows, like, how vested and how prepared going into it, and how much I wanted to not only impress Claire, but everything that you saw as far as a connection just instantly, in, like, feeling someone's energy and spirit, like, that was all real.
What is it like dating in front of cameras? Listen, I've been married for 13 years now, so I can't even, like, possibly fathom going on, like, first dates at this moment. But then having cameras watch you, as if first dates aren't awkward enough, but then, like, knowing that the world's going to watch your awkward first date. What is that like?
It takes some adjustment. And anyone who says it's not bad, excuse me, that they just disappear, like, right away, I think is lying. It was weird because you're talking openly and just naturally. There's a lot of setup. Obviously, there's cameras all over the place. But after a few of the dates, and you get used to all the other things that are going on, spending more time with the guys and understanding that people are kind of going through the same thing that you are, it definitely does get easier. After, I'll go by episode breakdown. After, like, the second episode, in my eyes, like, the cameras completely disappeared. But, the things that you don't see is the moments, and these are the special moments when you're on the show. The time where the cameras aren't fully on you, and it may be 30 seconds, it may be a minute, or however long, and you have these conversations where you can tell that they're completely open, free. And this is early on, right? And those are the little things that really help you understand a person's true spirit and a person's true heart. And I know, like, on the first day, I remember, like, we're about to finish, we're going into the first rose ceremony, and it's like, I feel like it was like 4 a.m. And I remember after I got the first impression rose, I was walking with Claire, and we're walking back to head to the rose ceremony, and we're walking in slow motion. And it's just because we were so tired and we were just joking around, having fun. And, like, that 30-second moment was something that stuck with me, to this day. And I think everyone has those small moments that makes them more sure about not only themselves, but also what they're there for. And those are what you have to hold on early on until you get more time or until you get more comfortable with camera.
How was Chris Harrison? Was he a cool guy? Like, what, was he just super relaxed and calm? He's got like he has the best gig on TV. I hope he comes back, but it's like, how was he?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly had nothing but a great experience with everyone on the show, the producers, Chris. And he's very honest, but I know that he helped me out a lot. He helped a lot of the guys out a lot. Yeah, we'll definitely shoot it straight. He's obviously been through the show many times before, but I think Chris is a great guy.
What's your opinion of this whole thing? Him not going to be hosting the next season?
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's he's definitely going through a lot, with probably having to make this adjustment, but with everything, it's a chance for growth for everyone involved. And I think we're in a day and age, especially over the last year, where people are realizing that their perspective or view has to change from an understanding standpoint. Like I said, I think Chris is a great guy. I've never had a bad experience with him, but I know that this is definitely a time of growth for him. It's a time of growth for the network as well. And I know that he's, put in some of the work and taken a step back. I think they've done a great job by bringing in previous contestants who have been on the show to host this season, because it's something that's not so foreign for the viewers and everyone who's followed these journeys over and over again. And you've got two great women who have been in the shoes of the lead for this upcoming season of The Bachelorette. And I know that they'll do an amazing job. And it'll be a unique situation too, because they've been there directly. And I definitely feel for the lead, it's going to help her so much more, because the challenges and the pressures that are put on them, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I have no concept of that. And I have no concept of something, like what Matt James was going through in the production as a lead with everything circulating. But all I can say from my perspective is I know that it's a lot, and you have to be strong-willed. You have to really lean on the host, the producers, everyone involved to get through that, because emotionally and mentally, it is such a challenge.
When you obviously your season ended a little bit short because you guys fell in love. She said, "I don't need to be with these other guys. I know you're the one." What was the vibe like when that happened? Were the producers pissed? Did you feel like guilt? And obviously then it was a real quick, you had the decision where you had to decide if I'm going to propose within 24 hours or 12 hours. It was like, hey, you have to propose tonight. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on through your head, but what was the vibe like when all that was going down and the show's dynamic, which was planning to be filmed for a long time, their whole shooting schedule gets cut short. And they're like, fuck, we're going to have a shorter season.
Yeah. When you're in it, you don't really, all the extra outside stuff, you don't even think about. Again, all I wanted from early on was to have one-on-one time and just really spend that time. So after that, honestly, anything that happened, I was ready for. Going into the show, I was like, at the end of the day, in my heart and my mind, this is before I even met Claire, was at the end, it's meant to be you and I, and that's the approach that I took the entire show. So while things happened early, it wasn't, everyone goes through their little nerves right away, but I was the most calm I had been probably before the proposal. And for me personally, I've never been afraid of commitment. There's nothing more that I've wanted in life than to have a family, to have kids. And while I haven't rushed into that, that's all I've ever known my entire life. And thankfully, by the grace of God, I have a great family structure, and not only in my immediate family, all the way through my cousins and everyone. And I that's what I've always wanted to be as a father. Now, again, I know all that stuff happens in due time. So when it came to the final stage, even though Claire and I didn't know each other long, the foundational pieces, and when it comes to love, all that was real. And from that standpoint, whatever was needed in my belief is that, you can work through certain things and just give it the time and attention that it needs. And in any situation, if it's meant to be, it'll work out in the end.
Do you still keep in contact with any of the other contestants? Because I don't know if, they showed on the show that it seemed like you weren't really focused on making friends. You were focused, obviously, on Claire. And I don't know if that was strategy or what. But do you keep in contact with any of them?
Oh yeah, like all the guys, like we were mad close. We were so close, and I didn't, we definitely had a more mature group of guys, I would say. And the only reason I say that is because the cast was older than previous seasons. But I like damn near everybody on the cast I talked to, and not only just once in a long while, it's on a regular basis. And that's what a lot of people don't see is the relationships that and the bonds that all the guys build. Also, when you're done with the show, you can sit back and realize the situations that you were in and what you were feeling in that and how a lot of things were misconstrued. And that's also been something that's helped me tremendously. Like when, Claire and I were going through some of our stuff, even, with stuff with like, I was getting drugged through the mud in the media, for things that weren't true with like the accusations, like that stuff never happened. I've never cheated on anyone in my entire life. I have 4 sisters, been the man of the house since I was a young age. So many of the guys reached out and picked me up and they're like, hang in there, bro. Like, we know that you're a good man and you have nothing to worry about. All this is going to fade. And like, those are the things that kept me really on the straight and narrow and kept me from going like honestly in a hole and just kind of feeling defeated. So I thank the guys a lot for that, because we spent so much time together, and they knew me on a very deep and personal level, just like I know them.
Yeah. So I got to be honest with you, one of my guilty pleasures, I love Dumois. It's fun. It's great. It's a fun follow. If you don't know Dumois, they've been on our podcast. It's like this Instagram where they kind of have celebrity tips, celebrity stories. You're a popular guy on Dumois. Dude, you're always on there.
People text me like, it's like I have a tracking device on me. I walk around the city. No, I swear. I didn't even know this stuff existed. And like, I've had servers at restaurants, like they're sending in my pictures and doing all this stuff. And like my, people like my agent or, clients will text me. They'll be like, dude, I can literally track you from Flatiron all the way down to the West Village, every movement you've made on Dumois. And I'm like, holy shit, like what's going on here? But I don't, it is what it is. Like my movements and they don't change. My life hasn't changed a lot since after the show. And obviously we're in a pandemic, but I go to the same places. I hang out with the same people I've hung out with for, 3+ years. I eat at the same places. And like, I'm 6'4", like black dude in New York City, always wearing my Yankees cap. I'm not too easy to miss. So it is what it is. And there's nothing going on in the city, man. Like it's starting to come back. But like, think about like during all this time, like this was a ghost town. And there is not a lot of media and things to cover, but I don't know. It is what it is.
Well,
I guess
there was a lot of obviously rumors flying around there. You kind of briefly touched on the rumors of infidelity. Like how did these rumors make you feel? Did they hurt your relationship at all?
Yeah. I mean, that everybody's a source, but like that was never a conversation. Even when we went through our split, it wasn't even a thing. That is something that people would like sit on. It was never even a topic of conversation. And I've heard and talked to a lot of people on previous seasons, and they said the number one thing that caused a lot of difficulties is everybody's a source. Like who are these sources coming from? Because we're not saying anything, and you got to really look past that and just really focus on one another. But I mean, that sucked, because when things are going at your character and something that you're completely against, those are the hardest things to really handle. And I thought more than anything about where I grew up in South Dakota. I love where I grew up, and I since the time I was in middle school, high school, through college, have worked with so many kids in the community, was a star athlete throughout. And when I go home, like pre-show, anything, everybody knows me and my family. And we worked really hard to build a name and respect and to carry ourselves properly. So that's something that stung the most, but it was short-lived. I mean, at the end of the day, like I'd go to bed at night and not sweat about like whether those things were truthful or not, because that's not my character. And it's just a learning experience. Whenever you're dealing with media, sometimes they can get things right and sometimes they can get things wrong. And when they get things wrong in a big way, it can really challenge how you handle things. And it can also, it just makes it so you have to be really strong and sound within your relationship as well.
Have you had to readjust your friendship circle? Because I know this happens a lot when people get super famous and they find out some of their friends may be a little loose-lipped. Have you had to do any of that adjustment?
I mean, honestly, for the most part, I haven't. I've been fortunate to have very strong, healthy relationships in most every aspect of my life. I've definitely adjusted, certain things and my movements a little bit. I think with anything, friendships and relationships have to change more so. The fact that the public eye is one thing, but when you're in a relationship, and that's what, something that I've learned more so, but I don't know, I guess I've tightened up, but my core group of friends, like they're all as real as they come. And I've learned some hard lessons for sure. But again, I've just tried to tighten up overall with who I'm around, who I'm communicating with. And also just really focus on some of the projects and the goals that I have going on.
Yeah, so let's get into that. I know, I want to know what's next for you. We know that you do a lot of work with the Special Olympics. We know that you just signed to one of the biggest modeling agencies in the world. What else do you want to do? We talked about you wanted to get into hosting. You're interested in obviously doing podcasts and doing some digital hosting. What else do you want to do? What's next for you?
Yeah, so obviously Special Olympics and philanthropic endeavors have been a big thing for me for years. And we're going to continue doing those things next year. The Special Olympics Winter Games is actually in Russia. So we're raising a lot of funds for that. I'll be going across the pond. I'm working collectively with Roosevelt's, which is an apparel company that usually specializes in pop culture. They're doing all like the Star Wars, like print tees and all that. And I can't share a ton of details on it right now, but we're developing lines for inclusive apparel for those with physical and intellectual disabilities. And we want to use that platform to really just grow awareness, raise funding, and also just with anything, support causes that we care about. As I've started getting back into the mix more, in light and in the midst of a pandemic, launching an Instagram live series and really just working with and speaking with people who are really shifting the way we think culturally and really creating an impact. I hopped on with Sarah Jakes Roberts, who just launched her book, and she's amazing. TD Jakes,
TD Jakes' daughter.
Yeah,
had her on the podcast. She was awesome.
Yeah,
really
she's a beautiful soul. And it was great because in 10 to 15 minutes, if you can really steer a strong interview and you can really hit on key topics and that people need to hear right now, you can have a powerful piece in a short stint. I've got a lot of other amazing guests that are in line, which I'm going to start sharing. And then from there, I want to keep producing. I want to keep working with other talent and trying to enhance their stories. So whether that's on a podcast, whether I end up doing that more consistently as things open up with a show or a network, that's what I've always wanted to do. I think one of the coolest and truest things that I've heard, and this is something that spoke to me a lot, is Pharrell when he was on a Goop podcast. And he talked about how he doesn't write music for himself. He writes music for other people. And he knows that his gift is like holding up that mirror and helping other people see their true potential. And I believe that. I believe a great storyteller, a great host, a great guide. Their goal is to help enhance the voices of other people that eventually will help improve everybody's lives. And that's why I've always been drawn to that medium of hosting and a media personality.
So
And
I know
lastly-
we're kind of I know we're running out of time. Adam, if you've got one other question, I just
was
want
gonna
to do
say,
fan chat roulette with him because
last question. Yeah, before we do fan
Okay.
chat roulette, we'll explain to what fan chat roulette. Do we see yourself becoming a father pretty soon?
I mean, there's like, I'm not in a rush for that. I think I'm ready for when that time comes, but that hasn't been in the conversation or anything right now. I'm just, but again, that's God's plan. I'll say that. How's that?
All right. So I want to get to fan question. It's fan question roulette. We called it the wrong thing. It's still new for us. But what we've started doing is we're having our podcast fans submit questions for celebrities like yourself without knowing what celebrity is going to be on our podcast. So we just kind of spin the wheel, see what question comes up. Adam and I have not seen the questions ourselves.
Have not. No
They've
idea.
just submitted. Our producers have dropped them in a bucket. So can we play one or two for you and you can answer them?
Yep, let's go.
All right. So this one, all I know is her name is Shannon. So here we go. Let's see what Shannon has.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and I actually have two very important questions for you. One, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza? And two, toilet paper over or under?
Oh,
Very important question.
toilet paper does it go under?
I hate pineapple pizza. It's confusing. It doesn't work for me. I don't understand it. I don't care what anyone thinks. It's not my vibe. And then toilet paper.
Yeah, this one will tell me a lot about you.
So is this like you wrap
under?
it around your hand? Like
No.
put it on
How
the
it's on the
thing.
roll, like on the little holder,
Like when it's on the side of the toilet, is it hanging over or is it just laying
draping down.
underneath? Draping down, yeah.
Over.
Yeah. All right.
No,
Good answer.
Under is probably the prop. I mean,
Under is weird. Like
Honestly,
who wants to
I don't
grab
even
under?
do it.
It's like awkward.
as
thinking
long as
about
I
it.
can pull the toilet paper and get the job done, and it's thick enough and my fingers don't break through, that's all that matters.
All right, we got one more.
So that's too much information.
One more for you from Nick.
What's up, Dax and Adam? My question is, if you were a potato, how would you want to be cooked?
I mean, baby. No.
That's important.
I don't know.
Baked, dude. I totally want to be baked.
French fries for sure, right?
I'm joking about that. How would you want to be cooked?
How do you like it? Yeah.
I'd like to be some hash browns.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's a good.
I love
That's
me some
fun.
breakfast, hash browns, early, start the day right. So that's how I'd like to be cooked.
Crisp cut fries right here. That's what I want.
Yeah, it's
Deep
got to be
fried.
crispy, extra crispy.
I like
Awesome,
I want to be frozen. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what they All right, listen, you can keep up with Dale Moss on Instagram at Dale Moss. He's a fun follow. He's on TikTok too. He's doing a lot of content and he's doing these Instagram lives, like he said, and they're really great listens. And he's talking to very influential people. And we're excited to see what's next for you, bud. You have a lot of talent, you have a lot of ambition, you got a lot of drive. You mix that together with some good looks, and I think something good's gonna happen. So thank you for coming on the podcast, bud.
Indeed,
And
I appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be your first interview in months and months and months. I mean, that honestly, we appreciate that. You trust us and you came here, and that says a lot. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's always good vibes, and it's just really good to I don't know, just in a good place, and it's always good to have a conversation. We all grow from this. So
Okay, well, that was awesome. Right.
That was fun. Interesting. I always love just to hear sort of like the behind the scenes and the journey and kind of the making of a show like The Bachelor. I just love to hear, like, if I was like a fly in the wall that show is being made. I think it's just a really fun. I don't know.
And we've had some amazing guests. I mean, we've had Trisha, we've had Andy Dorfman, we've had who else? We've had Chad. We've had Corinne
Johnson.
Olympios. I mean, we've had some pretty
We've had a lot,
big
yeah.
names from the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchises, and it never gets old to me. These people are fascinating.
I'm always curious about the experiences, but for some reason I'm always curious about the food. Like, is the food good? Do they feed you well? Like that's just, I feel like a grandmother, just like, did they feed you well?
Or
But
what do you do on your downtime? And because their season was a little different because it was shot during COVID, you know, they were quarantining. It was just a different situation
I
than what a
mean,
lot of the other seasons had to go through too.
also ended insanely early. I mean, that's never happened before. So,
Mhm.
I mean, no, never has a contestant come on the show and kind of just locked in the final rose within 20 seconds really of being on the show. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So, thanks to Dale Moss for coming on this podcast. Thank you guys for listening. You can see the video portion of this podcast on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
We're on all the social media platforms. You can find me at Adam Glyn, Glyn. You can find Dax Holt at DAXHOLT. And we'll see you guys next time.